everyone. Welcome to Barca News. It is May 13th, 2026. My name is Mo, and welcome to the post-match live analysis where we analyze Barcelona matches live. Today, we're going to have a little bit of hybrid between a match analysis and a podcast because, of course, Wednesdays are podcast days. That's when we do the news, and I get to read your comments and react to them live. So what I'm gonna do a hybrid of both. We're gonna analyze Barcelona's match, and then afterwards I'm gonna read you guys' comments, react to them. It's gonna be a bit longer than usually. So start filling out the chat section with your questions, your comments, anything you want to add, because again today I am addressing all the comments in the chat section like I usually do during a podcast. Now, let's begin by talking about today's match because today Barcelona lost at the hands of Alaves 1-0 at Alaves' stadium. And with that, of course, the dream or the goal to make history and earn 100 points is gone, right? Because in order to achieve the 100 points in La Liga, we needed to win the three remaining matches, Alaves, Real Betis, and Valencia. Without the Alaves match, even if we win the next two matches, we would fall short at 97 points. And of course, that is a shame because it would have been history. Only two teams in the entire history of the league have been able to accomplish or achieve the 100 points. Of course, Jose Mourinho's Real Madrid and Tito Villanova's Barcelona. May he rest in peace. So this was Flick's Barca's opportunity to make history, to become the third team ever to achieve the 100 points. But with this loss, that goal is gone. That dream is gone. And also, an important streak was broken because Barcelona had scored in 57 consecutive matches. And now, well, that streak is broken because, of course, today, Barcelona did not score. I think the last time Barcelona didn't score, I think it was sometime in 2024, something like that. So 57 matches that Barcelona had been scoring in consecutive matches, and now that streak is broken too. And again, the goal the objective of reaching 100 points is long gone. So it kind of sucks. I would have liked to see that because after all, this season was historic because we won La Liga by defeating Real Madrid at the Camp Nou, the first time that Barcelona have become champions in the history of La Liga by defeating Real Madrid. So that was pretty special. That was historic. It would have been nice to add, the cherry on top by adding another record, which is achieving 100 points, but that record will not be achieved. But, of course, nonetheless, it sucks. It would have been nice to see, but it's not the end of the world. It's no reason to be mad. It's no reason to be sad. We're champions, ladies and gentlemen. Barcelona are champions of the 2025-2026 La Liga season. It would have been nice to make history with the 100 points, but at the end of the day, we're champions. So I'm not going to be mad. I'm not going to be sad. I'm not going to be angry. I'm not going to dwell on it. It is what it is. We're still champions. And in fact, this match, I kind of had a feeling a little bit that we would gonna either lose or maybe draw. Because after all, the celebrations were extensive. Sunday after beating Real Madrid, the players all went out, celebrated all night. On Monday, it was the Rua, which after that, the players also celebrated all night, which means that only gave them Tuesday to prepare. And of course, 2 days of drinking, 2 days of partying, 2 days of staying up late, 2 days, I imagine, of eating horribly. Well, that catches up with you as an athlete. I mean, as a normal person, 2 days of that you definitely feel it. Well, more so when you are an athlete. So I kind of expected the team to not be at the top of their level because, of course, they've been partying for the last 2 days. They're hungover. So I kind of expected something like this to happen. Again, not the end of the world. We are champions. If anything, these last three matches, including the Alaves one, well, they're pretty insignificant in the grand scheme of things. But nonetheless, as insignificant as these matches might be, there's still some observations to make from today's match because today, well, definitely is another example of why we need a world-class striker, a world-class center forward. Because today the team actually created several chances, but again, without a quality center forward, without a quality striker to finish them, well, it doesn't matter how many chances you create. And in fact, and this is a crazy statistic, but Barcelona had 0 shots on goal. 0 shots on goal in 90 minutes. That is crazy, ladies and gentlemen, especially when you take into consideration that Barcelona had 77% of the ball possession. 3/4 of the ball possession, 0 shots on target. This is a clear indication, a clear example on why we need to invest in a world-class center forward. Because as I've said a million times on this channel, this team's problem is not the defense. This team's problem is the offense. People like to blame the defense because we concede, but we don't concede because we have a defensive problem. We concede because of our style of play, where we commit the entire team to the attack, where we attack with all of our players, which of course leaves us exposed in the back, which you're bound to concede. But that's okay as long as you outscore your opponent. And what's been happening, why we got knocked out of the Copa del Rey and the Champions League? Because we didn't outscore our opponent. Why didn't we outscore our opponent? Because we don't have the world-class firepower up front. We have Lamine, we have Rafinha. If one of them is out, if one of them is injured, if one of them is tired, if one of them is having a bad match, we don't have anything. Sure, Ferran Torres shows up every now and then and has some goals, and we call him the Shark, and we're all happy, but that he's not consistent. And for a team that wants to win it all, you cannot have a striker that's on and off, on and off, on and off. You need a striker that's consistently on. Sure, every striker every now and then is going to have his off day. Every now and then they're going to miss or not score. That's fine. It happens to everybody. It happened to Messi, and he's the greatest footballer in the history. But someone like Ferran, where it's on, off, on, off, on, off, on, off, can't have that. Rashford, same thing, right? And today, again, another example of why Barcelona need to invest in a world-class striker. Because if we want to maintain this style of play where we attack with all of our players, create a lot of chances, maintain a lot of ball possession, and in the process, risk conceding, well, we better make sure we have the players that they can score. Because, again, conceding doesn't matter if you outscore your opponent. And right now, it's a lot of times we cannot outscore our opponents because we don't have the necessary firepower up front to outscore our opponents. And today is a great example of that. Lamine was injured. Rafinha is out due to suspension because he accumulated his 5th yellow card in the Clásico. Bam. 0 shots on target. 0 shots on target. That is crazy to me. And again, now you see why Barcelona's number one priority is the center forward, right? People say, no, Bastoni, this or that defender. Number one is center forward. That's what it is. That's where it should be, because 0 shots on target. That's insane, especially against a team like Alaves. I mean, we're not talking about 0 shots on target against, I don't know, Bayern Munich or something. No, we're talking about Alaves, like a team that's fighting to stay out of relegation. That is crazy. Also, more things or more conclusions from this match, as insignificant as might have seemed, since we are champions now. Now, let's look at the lineup real quick, because there was a lot of changes today. In the lineup, there were a lot of rotations. Of course, something that I expected that would happen. I mentioned the action in yesterday's video. But this was Barcelona's lineup. Okay, Szczesny on goal in the place of Joan Garcia. Jules Kouzde El Balde as our 2 fullbacks in the place of Eric Garcia and Cancelo. Cubarsí. And then you had Álvaro Cortés making a debut in the place of Gerard Martin. We had Casado and Bernal in the place of Pedri and... well, actually, just in the place. Oh, oh my God. Place of Pedri and Gavi. Of course, I'm referring to the lineup against the Clásico match. Bardaggi in the place of Rashford, who played on the right. On the left, Rashford in the place of Fermin. Dani Olmo as our attacking mid. And then Robert Lewandowski up front in the place of Ferran. So we had about 8 different players on the field as opposed to El Clásico match. Lots of rotation. But what is my second observation, with number one being, of course, that we need a center forward and we need one ASAP. Well, the second observation is that today, given that there were 8 different players, there's a lot of players who needed to step it up today, who needed to show or take advantage of this opportunity and show why should they be kept, or why should Flick give them more minutes or more opportunities. And I gotta say, a lot of them didn't. Let's start with the front three. Rooney Bardarji. Ever since Rafinha's injury, Rooney has been given an opportunity after an opportunity by Flick, and I feel like every single one of them has been wasted, which of course brings me to the conclusion that the best solution for Rooney Bardarji will be to send him out on loan. I don't think Rooney right now has the quality to be a Barcelona player, whether it be as a substitute or as a starter. Of course, he is going to need minutes to perhaps become a player that's good enough for Barca. But in order to get those minutes, you have to be good enough to begin with. And if you're not good enough to begin with to get the minutes, you're not going to get the minutes, which means you're not going to get to that point, right? It's kind of like a closed loop, a vicious cycle. So I think the best thing will be send Rooney Bardarji on loan, let him get the minutes at a smaller club, mid-table team, bottom-table team, I don't know, a club in a different league. Let him get the minutes that he needs to grow and develop, and then hopefully that will make him good enough to then come back to Barca and get minutes at Barca, because right now, I don't think he is. Lewandowski, look, Lewandowski doesn't have to prove anything to anyone. He's one of the greatest strikers of our generation, but of course, it's clear his time is up, right? I'm not saying Lewandowski should have proved anything to us today, because he doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. He has won everything there is to win at the club level. He's one of the greatest strikers ever. But of course, it's clear that age has caught up with him. Age catches up with everybody. And I think it's time to bid adieu to Lewandowski and stop with the whole nonsense of trying to extend his contract by one more season. Unless, of course, it is to bring, a world-class striker and have Lewy as a substitute, where Lewy can maybe help that striker learn some things, because after all, who better to learn from being a world-class 9 than Lewy? But overall, I would say, Lewy, I love you. I was so happy when you signed for the club. Thank you for everything you did for the club. 3 La Ligas in 4 seasons is absolutely amazing. But I think it's time for a goodbye. And then, of course, Marcus Rashford. Because Rashford today, again, give it an opportunity. Now, with Rafinha out, with Lamine out, do you think we should spend 30 million euros on him plus 20 million in salary? After today, after every game I've seen him, I don't think so. Not even after a Clásico, where sure, he scored a banger, but for the rest of the match, he was still crap. This guy, he's just, I don't know what's wrong with him. He has the talent, he has the skill, he has everything, but I don't know what it is with him. I just don't know. In a match like this, you're the biggest name on the field, obviously, aside from Lewy, but again, Lewy's a million years old. You would think Rashford would say, okay, Lamine's injured, Rafinha's out for suspension, Pedri's on the bench. It's time for me to step it up and be the world-class player that I am. And instead, he doesn't. Very disappointing. And again, this only reaffirms my belief that we should not spend 30 million euros on Rashford, and that we should just thank him. Don't get me wrong, Rashford, 14 goals, 14 assists, or something like that. Very impressive. Thank you. Part of that helped us win La Liga. So again, thank you. But avouez-y, time to go back to England. By the way, I don't know why I said avouez-y. Obviously, he's English. They don't speak German in England. But anyways, they could have been if it wasn't for that us. Just kidding. All right. Marc Casado. I felt like he wasted his opportunity too. He hasn't been getting a lot of minutes. As a result, he's been kind of looking for another team. Maybe this wasn't his opportunity to step it up. I didn't see it. Right? And then same could be said about Balde. Cancelo has taken your spot. This was your chance to show us that you need to win your spot back. He didn't. I think Barcelona should seriously consider. I mean, they are, but they don't want to pay the 15 million. But seriously consider keeping Cancelo because Balde's gonna need that pressure. Because if Cancelo leaves or goes back to Al Hilal, and then Balde's all of a sudden our starting fullback next season, and without that pressure of someone taking his spot, I feel like he's gonna decline again. But anyways, that's my overall observations of the match. Again, a pretty insignificant match. Sure, it would have been nice to win the 100 points. But at the end of the day, we're champions. So these three remaining matches are insignificant. But nonetheless, you could still draw conclusions from them. And my conclusion is we need a world-class striker. We need to send Bardaghji on loan. We need a bid adieu to Lewy and thank him for everything he did for us. We cannot sign Rashford. And Casado, if he's looking to leave, maybe it's time. Maybe it's time. And Cancelo needs to stay because Balde needs that pressure, man. He needs that pressure. Anyways, all right, let's see. Let's do some comments, and then we'll end this. Again, like I said at the beginning of this, for those of you who just joined, we're doing a hybrid today of the podcast and a match analysis. So not only am I reacting to the match, but I'm also going to do a lot of comments like I usually do when I do the podcast. It started with Ray Ramos says, let's fucking go. Thank you so much, my friend, for your generosity, for always supporting the channel. Thank you so much. But Ray says, I'm a little sad, but I think it's more important to educate our B squad. Arsene Wenger once said, you pay for the education of young players with points. Also, Mo versus Chouamini, UFC fight. Who wins? Hey, I'd fight Chouamini. I'll take him on. Even though he's a lot younger. Obviously, he's a professional athlete, but I feel like that would be a fun match. But yeah, no, you're right. And I feel like at this point, I mean, the only thing we had to look forward to is the 100 points. Obviously, we're already champions. And since that's not going to happen, I say the last two matches, yeah, fuck it. Put in the youngsters. Give them minutes. Let's see what they got to offer. And, I mean, what's the worst can happen? We lose the last two remaining matches. Big deal. We're still champions. We're still not going to make the 100 points because we already can't with this loss. So I agree 100%. You know, in fact, the fact that we didn't have our youngsters is that why we suffer today, right? I mean, Fermin Lopez, he didn't play. Lamine, he didn't play. Gabi didn't play. And, man, you can see the difference, right? Pedri, of course, didn't play, but I wouldn't consider him our youngster because obviously he didn't come up through our academy, even though he is pretty young. But, yeah, you're right. You're right. I mean, what a difference has Fermin made this season. What a difference Gabi has made these last few matches since returning from injury. And, of course, I don't even have to tell you or explain to you what a difference Lamine Yamal makes. And even Pau Cubarsí, right? So all these youngsters who, they literally are the embodiment of the Arsene Wenger's quote that, yes, the education of young players, they give you points. And this is why I've always said, like, instead of spending all this crazy money on these signings, 60 million on Vitor Roque and 60 million on Dani Olmo when we didn't need another midfielder, why not put that money towards the academy, right? I mean, our La Masia's budget is 6 million a year. And look what it produces. I mean, it gave us Messi, it gave us Iniesta, Xavi, Puyol, Busquets, you know, Lamine and Cubarsí and Bernal and Gabi. And it's like, and that's just 6 million a year. Let's double it. Let's make it 12. That's not a lot more money. Double sounds like a lot, but another 6 million a year, that's probably like Barcelona's toilet paper budget. Why not? If the academy can do that, give us some of the best players in history for 6 million a year, can you imagine what it could do for 12? I mean, something that Barcelona should seriously consider instead of spending money on these crazy, insane signings. But thank you, my friend, for your donation. And Nathan says, hi, Mo. This match tells Barca and Flick a reason they should not waste 30 million on Rashford and not renew Lewy for one more season. It is time for new signings to come in. 100% agree with you, my friend. 100% agree. And Edward says, well, Mo, my bro, what is there to say? No Pedri, no party. I saw a lot of runs by the forwards and no service. Pedri for 20 minutes is not enough. Yeah, I agree. I saw one. I remember one clearly where Rashford starts to make the run, and Olmo has the ball. And if Olmo passed that ball, it would have left Rashford 1v1. And instead, Olmo just turns back, and Rashford's like, "What the fuck?" So yeah, you're right. And Gulam Mustafa says, "Gonna need a creative winger to take burden off starters. Someone like Abde. No, not Abde, bro. Come on. Or Guts that does not complain. Loan would do Rooney good. 50 million left winger, 100 for striker. Then either Cancelo or Fort Sales Fund CB." I mean, look, if Barcelona end up signing Blahovic for free, that opens up that 100 million for center forward to be put towards a center back, and we still have money also for our left winger. Would I bring Abde? No. I think Abde is great at where he's at. I think Abde is a Real Betis kind of player, mid-table team, kind of like Ferrares, or Ferran at Valencia was a beast. Signed for City. Sorry, I think I'm getting sick. Signed for City, and all of a sudden, oh, he's not as good as we thought he was. We bring him to Barca. I don't know why. And again, on and off. That's because some players are just, that's where they shine. That's where they at, right? Every player has a ceiling. And some players are great in bottom table teams, but they can't move past that. Some players are great in mid-table teams. And obviously, there's the players who are great at big clubs. I don't think Abdi is one of those. I think he's good where he's at. I think a team like Real Betis is a perfect fit for him. So, no, I don't think we should bring Abdi. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But I just don't see it. As far as Götze, I think he'll play with lots of potential. That would be cool to see him at Barca. We'll see what Flick says, because, of course, we still have that pending meeting between Flick and Deco to finish planning for the summer transfer market and next season's squad. And Blaurana X says, "Hi, what up, Blaurana X?" And David says, in the words of the famous philosopher Lamine Yamal, first they cheat and they cry. Amen, my friend. And Kevin says, "How does Rashford play better on the right rather than his natural position, and he's still shit on the right?" That's a good question, my friend. I don't know what the answer is. And Edward says, "Mo, beg to differ with you. A world-class forward wouldn't have played today. Further, there was no service, no nada, nunca, no service, no slide, rule passes, no CMS. We're scared to play the ball." Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not saying we need a world-class center forward so he could have played today and we could have won and we could have made the 100 points. That's not what I'm saying. I say today is just another example on why we need a world-class forward. Whether he would have played today or not, it doesn't make a difference, right? I'm not here arguing that we needed one for today's match. I'm talking about we need one for the season period, right? Because look how many shots, how many chances we had against Atletico Madrid, right? I mean, we had, I think, 35 or almost 40 shots at goal between both legs, and we only scored, how many goals did we score? 2 goals? 2? Yeah, 2. I mean, that's crazy. That's crazy, right? And I'm not saying we should have made every single one. Obviously, that's impossible. But out of 30 plus, at least make 3. That's 10%. If you make 3, sorry, that's 10%. Yeah, if you make 3 out of 30 plus, right? I mean, that's not asking a lot. Laurana X says, "Yo, the little bit that Tommy Marquez played, I liked a lot. He's so comfortable and possessive with the ball." Yeah, man, I really hope that, now that we're not going to be able to make the 100 points, just, have the youngsters play those last 2 matches against Betis and Valencia. Even though I have a feeling that Flick is probably going to put in all the starters for the match against Real Betis, because it is the final home match. And, you don't want to say goodbye to the fans and to the stadium with a loss. I feel like he will put in a lot of the starters, or maybe all of them. But maybe, you could start with the starters and make sure you get a good lead. And then the last third of the match, put in the youngsters. And then against Valencia, we could put in the youngsters. Who cares if we win or lose that match? It's an away match. And Ethan says, "Yo, I don't care about the loss. Neither did Flick, really. This was a match that determined who to sell and keep, and the trophies in the cabinet already." Yeah, no, that's what I said. I'm not here. I'm not going to be mad or be like, "Oh, my God, I can't believe we lost. Fuck this. Sack Hansi Flick." No, I mean, it would have been nice to make the 100 points, but, I'm not mad. It's an insignificant match. Plus, the players are all hungover and tired, so it is what it is. And we do have a Sereoga says, "Desiree Doué or Barcola?" Wait, so what's the question? Is the question... wait, maybe it's not a question. Are you saying that we should sign Doué or Barcola? Or are you asking whether which one I would choose, Due or Barcola. As far as signing, if that's what you were meant, Due is not. It's not gonna happen. I mean, that's just not gonna happen, right? This is like PSG trying to sign Lamine. It's just not gonna happen, right? Due is their Lamine. They're not gonna sell him. He's not going anywhere anytime soon. So Barcola is a more realistic one. Of course, he would cost, they're saying 70 mil. That's a lot of money. So it's all gonna depend on how much we end up spending on a center forward. If you're asking which one I would choose, if nothing else matters, I would choose Due. You know, if like there's no money concerns and nothing, you can just pick whatever player you want and he's yours, I would pick Due. But I mean, not to say that Barcola isn't great. I mean, any of the two would be amazing, but I would choose Due over Barcola for sure. For sure. All right, let's see what else. But thank you, my friend, for your donation. Let's see what else. Paulie says, I would love to see Marc Bernal and Tommy Marquez in that midfield together.
Yeah, but I mean, the two are very similar profiles, so
I don't know how that would work because you have two holding midfielders. That kind of leaves you without that creative midfielder to distribute the ball and move the ball around, right? And be kind of like the mastermind of the attack, which is what Pedri does. So yeah, but it would kind of be duplicative, right? It wouldn't make sense to have the two on the field at the same time. But I mean, if you're winning a match by a big margin, 4-0, 5-0, the last 10, 15 minutes, who cares? Put them together. Hey, shit, put in Chesney in the midfield. I don't care. You know what I mean? I guess we could try it. Let's see. Jose Fernandez says, Mo, what a shame. I think Casado has lost interest. Rashford is definitely a no-go, and we may be hurting big time on the front line next season. Well, not necessarily if we make the right moves this summer and we make the right signings, we don't necessarily have to hurt in the front line. But yes, no, we need some refurbishment up front. We definitely need. And like I've said, our problem is an offensive one. People love to blame the defense. People love to blame the high line. But they don't understand that the fact that we're conceding is not because the defense, is because we are a team that concedes goals, period. Just like how Atletico Madrid is a team that doesn't concede goals because they park the bus. Well, we're the opposite, right? They don't concede goals, but they also barely score any because they're always defending. We score a lot of goals, but we also concede a lot because we're always attacking. So we concede because it's just a byproduct of how we play. But in order for our system to work and in order to be comfortable with conceding, we have to be able to score. And if you don't have players to score, then you're just conceding for no fucking reason, right? It's like the whole point of attack with all your players. It's like, yeah, you're opening yourself up to conceding, but that's okay because in exchange, you're scoring a lot of goals. But if you're not scoring a lot of goals, then why the hell are you conceding to begin with? What's the point of that sacrifice? So yeah, we have an offensive problem, a big one, and we need reinforcements. Kevin says, what do you think Alvaro Cortez' performance today? I think it was a good match. I mean, he wasn't like stellar. Like I was like, oh my God, Maldini reborn. But for taking everything into consideration, debut, first time playing with the first team, he had a correct performance. He did his job. He did what he was supposed to do, and that's a great sign, right? Because usually academy players, when it's their first time debuting, they're messy, right? They make mistakes. They're nervous. They're not used to the much higher intensity and higher pace. So it's kind of like a giraffe learning how to walk, right? And that's what happens with, and that wasn't the case, which means he's already ahead of many of the other players who have debuted, because, even the players who debuted and looked like shit their first few matches, and then they end up being great, and you're like, okay, just because they were shit doesn't mean they're bad. A lot of great players who ended up being great had really bad debuts. This guy had a fine debut, which is great, right? It's a good sign. So I liked his match. I think it was he did his job. He did it well. It wasn't stellar, but why would it be? It's his first time. And that's obviously a very good sign
Like, even if he had come out and fucked it up, I still wouldn't have been here like, oh, this guy sucks, because obviously he's going to fuck it up. You guys remember Gerard Martin? Gerard Martin was a hot mess. Remember, people say, oh, Gerard Martin sucks, he's trash. And I was like, hold on, guys. Like, he's just starting with the team. Like, of course he's a mess. Any player that makes a jump to first team, unless you're Lamine or Messi, you're going to be a hot mess. And even Lamine, right? Lamine makes mistakes, loses the ball sometimes in very critical areas, because it's normal, right? You have to adapt to the first division. And look at Gerard Martin now. I mean, him and Cobarcia just have been stellar. So I liked it. I liked what I saw. The Rebel Pilot says, off topic, but congrats on Eddie Garcia for getting his call up for Spain's national team. Very well deserved. 100%, my friend. I'm actually surprised it took this long for him to get a call up. I think he's deserved that call up a long, long time ago. I'm glad he's going to be able to win the World Cup. And honestly, I feel like Spain has a good chance. Spain has a really good team, a really solid team. I wish they had a better coach. I think if Luis Enrique was their coach, they would for sure win the World Cup. I think this coach is a little bit of an idiot. We've seen it, right? So he's made some really bad decisions. I mean, they lost the Euros because of his idiotic decisions. Let's hope he doesn't make those same mistakes in the World Cup. But I think Spain has a very good chance. I really do. And P4K Chema says, now we see why Rooney rarely plays. Rashford is a lost deer, just running around. No Rafinha Yamal, no intensity up top. Lewis Mine is no longer here when he these signings. Yeah, man, I was actually going to make that point. I completely forgot. But, for people who used to attack Flick all the time, like, oh, Flick doesn't give Rooney a chance. Rooney deserves more minutes. Flick. And now it's like, now you guys see why Flick wasn't giving Rooney that many chances. He was still getting them, by the way. But you see why he wasn't getting that many? Because obviously Flick saw that he wasn't ready. And that's why he wasn't giving him chances. I mean, there's a reason, right? The coach sees things that we don't see. We only see those 90 minutes of a match. We don't see the morning trainings in the 5 days prior to that. We don't see the afternoon trainings in the 5 days after that, prior to that. We don't see any of that. Flick does. And if he wasn't using Rooney, well, there was a reason for it. And now that reason is clear. But anyways. Oh, the Nations League. Yeah, the Nations League. Sorry. You're right. They lost the Nations League. The Euros, they were champions. And we do have a little donation. Thank you, Sanjok. Thank you so much, my friend, for always supporting the channel. Sanjok says, I'd like to know Madrid's finances. Losing 2 seasons in a row, plus massive debts, plus high wages can have huge financial implications. So I talked about this in a previous video. I actually went into the numbers. Right now, they have a 1.4 billion euro debt. They're very short on cash. They're very strapped for cash. In other words, liquidity. Their liquidity is very low. I can't remember when I made this video. It was a few weeks ago, but the video is somewhere on the channel. I think part of the title is about that mentions Real Madrid's finances. So if you go watch that video, I actually have the exact numbers of at least what we have, right? Because that's confidential information and we don't have all the numbers. But the numbers that we do have, I did talk about it in the channel. But yes, they are having problems because they've spent a lot of money. They spent 200 plus mil this past summer, or 170, close to 200, either 200 or close to 200. A lot of money on the signings that they made. They're saying Mbappe had a signing bonus of 120. Some say 80. Let's go with the low 80. That's a lot of money. And not to mention the salaries, right? Mbappe's salary, I can only imagine how much he's earning. Everyone else, Vinicius, Birmingham, high salaries. So yeah, you spend all this money on transfer fees, and you spend even more on salaries. And obviously your income is not as much because, they can't hold the concerts. So that's a source of revenue that they were counting on that they don't have. The underground parking lot that they have at the Bernabeu, that got shut down. So that's another source of income that they were counting on that they're also not going to have. And whenever you're going through a losing streak, your finances, your revenue usually declines, right? Because people are not rushing to go buy a kit or to go buy a hat or whatever when their team is doing bad, right? Especially the casual fans, right? A hardcore fan is always going to buy merchandise, always going to have kits. But, a casual fan who's a bandwagon, who just watches the team when they're winning, that fan is not going to spend money when the team is doing bad, right? And there's a lot of those fans, right? That's why teams, when they're doing great, poof, everybody's buying their merchandise, right? So normally when you do bad, merchandising goes down, ticketing goes down. People are not rushing, especially the casual fans. They're not rushing to go see a team that's getting clobbered left and right. Sponsorship money dwindles, right? Because sometimes in the sponsorship contracts, you get bonuses for winning things. Also, there's less sponsors who are going to want to sign with you. So overall, when you do bad, your finances dwindle, your revenue decreases, and then you add to that all the money they spend on transfer fees, all the money they're spending on salaries. So yeah, they're hurting. They're hurting. Part of me thinks that's why the only reason why they find Tchouaméni and Valverde, they're like, yo, can we have some of that money back? We need cash, yo. But yeah, check the video on the channel. I have the exact numbers. Obviously, I don't know on top of my head, but they're on there. But either way, thank you, my friend, for your donation. Maybe we should all be donating to Madrid, huh? Just kidding. Fuck them. P4K Chema says, yeah, I saw Madrid's budget is 250 to 300 million for the new season. That can't be true. I don't think so. Let me see. I mean, for starters, the budgets haven't been released for next season, right? Because fiscal year ends June 30th. On June 30th, all the clubs will turn over their paperwork to La Liga. La Liga will study how much each club made, how much money they spent, whether they have profits, losses, or have broken even. And based on that, they issue the new budgets for, not budgets, the financial fair play, how much you can spend. As far as the budget, I doubt it because, again, the same thing applies for the club. You know, their fiscal year ends in June 30th. Then that's when you do the new budget for next season with the forecast and blah, 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 blah. But anyways, that is all, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in. Again, you know, it would have been nice to reach the 100 points and make history, especially since this season was already historic by winning La Liga, by defeating Real Madrid. It's not going to happen. It sucks, but that's okay, right? There's nothing to be angry about, nothing to be sad about. At the end of the day, we're La Liga champions for the second consecutive season in a row. So it is what it is. But again, as insignificant as these final matches might be, there's still, you know, reason to watch them because there's still conclusions to be made from them. And like I said, today's conclusions for me is that, Lewy, we love you. Thank you for your service, but it's time to go. Rashford, no way in hell should we sign him. Baradarji, I think the best thing is to send him out on loan. And Casado, it pains me to say this, but maybe it's time to part ways as well. Oh, and Cancelo needs to stay because Balde needs competition. Anyways, that is all. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment, and as always, peace, Garza.